Hey, it's Mythic Mike. We're doing a set review for Murders at Karlov Manor. It is a standard set coming out February 6th, but don't worry, we're not wasting your time with cards that are neither fun nor good. We're only focusing on the fun and the bangers. And we're going to just blast right through all the colors, hopefully in under an hour. And we're going to, let you know what you need to be aware of, how to break some things. You're going to hear some very cool deck ideas that we're going to test out, and then we're going to get you out of here. For those that do not know me, I make a lot of unique standard best of one decks where maybe we don't play meta cards as much or we avoid them, but we make just either budget decks that can compete at the Mythic ladder or some unique synergies, new decks that, like I said, will still get in the top numbers Mythic. I do make a deck a day, guys. So if you haven't checked out my stuff, definitely check it out, like and subscribe. And the coolest thing about Best of One is we can really pop off with these kind of unique cards, surprise people out of nowhere, which is why I love this game, guys. All right, well, let's get into the cards. One thing I almost forgot, we're going to categorize cards as either meta, which means they're going to be in the top decks. You're going to see them a lot. They're very good. They'll fit in meta decks. Or Mythic Mike bangers, which means they're going to be fun, unique, and even though they may not technically be meta, I think we can fit them into our daily unique decks to crush a bunch of the Mythic decks and still perform at the top level. All right, let's get into it. The first card that's a classic Mythic Mike banger right here. Perfect example, Toxin Analysis. One black instant, it's a common for all you budget lovers. Let's go. Target creature gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn, and you investigate, which means you make a clue artifact token, and you can pay 2 to sacrifice it to draw a card. So these Death Touch tricks usually are very bad. You have to do something crazy to make it so you're not a card behind, because you're putting Death Touch on a creature that will most likely die in the exchange, and you're killing a bigger creature, sure, but you're losing that creature and this trick. So 2 cards for 1. So that's not good. So you have to do crazy things like I recently made an all menace creatures deck and I had Death Touch tricks because at least Death Touch kills 2 creatures then, right? So you're not a card behind. This, I think, does the same thing though. I think it gets you there without doing anything too crazy. Because first of all, Lifelink is no joke. You attack him with a 3/3. They block with a 4/4. You splash this on it. You gain 3 life and kill a bigger thing. You're a card behind, but you gain the life. And then you also investigate. And in a meta where artifacts matter, I mean, the artifact coming into the battlefield could be a trigger, but also picture a blue-black artifact-themed deck. We put on one of those blue spells that turns a non-creature artifact into a creature, like the Zoroaster one that turns into a 5/4. And we got 2 cards of value off this. And also gain life and kill the bigger thing. So I think that's the way to do it. And then the fact that it is 1 less mana than these tricks usually are is also very relevant. So I think we are going to be able to, crush some people with this at Mythic. I don't think it's going to be meta, but I mean, look, if we beat enough meta decks with it, what's the difference? All right, the next card is Case of Gorgon's Kiss for 1. Our first case, it is a sick one. A case is an enchantment, and it stays on the first chapter until you do something to solve it, and then it goes to the last chapter where it stays. So it's a pretty cool idea, kind of like a saga or a flip card. It's kind of a mixture of things. But this one, when this case enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target creature that was dealt damage this turn. To solve, 3 or more creature cards were put into your graveyard from anywhere. And then if that happens, at the beginning of your end step, it turns into the last thing, which is, in this case, is a 4/4 Gorgon creature with Death Touch and Lifelink in addition to its other types. Let's go, baby. Also uncommon. Let's go. We're going to have some sick budget decks in black, I feel. So the first thing to notice is, I mean, this can be a removal spell if you're swinging in with a lot of small creatures. It definitely can act that way. Now, the other thing, too, if you put it in a black-red deck, you could just do 1 damage to something, right, with some kind of burn spell or 2 damage and kill a big thing. Pretty cool. But the big thing is it's very easy to get to the 3rd chapter in the right deck because you could mill your creatures. So you could do a sack deck, but that's the harder way. But if you mill creatures so that 3 or more creatures wouldn't put into your graveyards from anywhere this turn, Then it turns into this 4/4 Death Touch lifelink thing from 1 mana. So I think very cool. So maybe this goes in a blue-black deck and it slots right into one of those Reanimator decks that we've already seen. So I think this could be meta. And if it's not meta, Mythic Mike banger for sure. All right, let's keep it going. All right, we got Barb Servitor, 4 mana, artifact creature construct, rare. It is indestructible. And when Barb Servitor enters the battlefield, suspect it. It has menace and cannot block. That's a standard line of text in here. For this set, sometimes you suspect opponent's creature so that it can't block. Sometimes the suspect is for your creature, potentially as a positive because it has menace. This one, your creature gets it, which is interesting because then it has whenever Barb Servitor deals combat damage to a player, you draw a card and you lose 1 life. Powerful because they have to have 2 creatures to block it, right? And then the last thing, the best part, is when Barb Servitor is dealt damage, target opponent loses that much life. So obviously you can do fight spells and stuff, but also if they don't want you to draw a card, they need to double block. So if they block with 2/3/3s, for example, they deal 6 damage. Pretty crazy. I mean, the best they can do is block with 2/1/1s and lose 2 life. So kind of insane. I guess the best is like a 0/4 or 2/0/4s, but those they don't make those that often. And what's also interesting is it is an artifact, so you can do all the artifact themes with it. I mean, we're going to put Dowsing Device on it to give it haste. We're definitely going to play around with this card. I don't think it's meta. It costs too much. I think it's a Mythic Mike banger, though, and we can do a build around. You're going to need a lot of life gain to survive up to the 4 mana point. But then this could be kind of our top end. That's my plan. We're going to put it in some decks, and we're going to get it done. All right, let's go. All right, we got Massacre Girl, known killer, 4 mana, legendary creature, human assassin, mythic. It has menace, and creatures you control have wither, which is a new ability. They deal damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters. So I don't know if anyone's played Hearthstone, but in Hearthstone, if you attack with a 3/3 and they block with a 4/4, it turns into, I believe, a 1/1 forever because the damage doesn't reset after combat. So you can actually kill big creatures by attacking over and over again with small creatures. Obviously, Magic's not like that, but this turns it into kind of a Hearthstone game, which is interesting because it's going to completely change a game where this card is in it, right? And it is one-sided wither, which is pretty cool. And then also, whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, if its toughness was less than 1, draw a card. So that obviously would trigger if you kill something with Wither. You could also kill things with like Virtue, the -3/-3, and speed that up to draw cards. I think there's going to be some broken combos with this. So I think there's some chance it'll be meta. And we're definitely going for it. So let's, yeah, excited for this card. Let's go. All right, Case of the Stash Skeleton, 2 mana. When this case enters, create a 2/1 skeleton creature token and suspect it. So it has menace and can't block. Then to solve it, which means it flips to the last chapter, you control no suspected skeletons. So either you unsuspect it or you kill it. Or your opponent kills it. Solved. The last thing is you can pay 2 mana to sacrifice this case. Search your library for a card, put it into your hand, then shuffle, activate only as a sorcery. Yeah, so it's a cool tutor. You can get some crazy combos, I'm sure, with this. I'm absolutely playing this card. I'm going to put it with my Corpses of the Lost, this 3 mana Skeleton Maker, and that comes back to your hand when you descend. This forces descend in the last chapter, which will be great for that kind of deck. I have a mono black descend skeleton deck out. Check it out if you haven't, but this is going to slot right in. I am pumped. I don't think meta, but Mythic Mike banger, definitely. Yo, baby, we got more skeletons here. We got Hunted Bone Brute, 3 mana Skeleton Beast rare. It's a 6/2, so it slots right in the fight rigging deck to give us even more of these. I'm not sure we need them, but fight rigging cares when you get to 7 power. So this is a very key card, or anything with 6 power for 3 mana is key in those decks. Also, it's a skeleton, as I just talked about. There's a skeleton deck forming, and I'm going to make it. It's going to be awesome. This does have menace, and then when Hunted Bone Brute enters the battlefield, target opponent creates 2 1/1 white dog creature tokens. That's terrible. This is terrible. So It's terrible. We gave them 2/1/1s for 3 mana. It's terrible. Let me say it one more time. This is terrible. Now, the reason why it might not be terrible, there's two reasons. One, it's got more text, which we'll get to. And two, maybe we can set up some kind of combo where we shut off the 1/1s with other cards in the set, or we kill them kill them with Kix's command, and actually we like them having creatures because we deal damage for every creature that died. So maybe that's the way to do it. But the other thing is, when Hunted Bone Brew dies, each opponent loses 3 life. So not bad, and you can disguise it, which means you pay 3. This is the thing they do in here. It's mostly limited though, so I don't really care. I play standard best of 1, but this one you might actually use if you play this card. You pay 3 mana and you flip the card down, so you can only see the back of it. And that face down card is a 2/2 with ward 2. And then at any time you can pay the disguise cost, here it's 2, to flip it up, and it turns into a 6/2. Or it turns into this card. So I believe the benefit of that here is you don't give the opponent the white dogs, but it's 5 mana over 2 turns. You know, I mean, it's good. It's cool they have it, because in late game, if you have 5 mana, you'll just do it if you top deck it. Otherwise, I don't think you'll do it that way. So look, not meta. I don't think this is meta. Mythic Mike banger. We're gonna say maybe, but I'm gonna try real hard, man. I love me some skeletons, so we're gonna try our heart out on this one. Right, Illicit Masquerade, 4 mana enchantment rare. Flash. I love flash things. When Illicit Masquerade enters the battlefield, put an imposter counter on each creature you control. Whenever a creature you control with an imposter counter on it dies, exile it, return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So look, this is like a mat. You can, whenever your creatures die after this that were in play, you can bring something from your graveyard. So it's like multiple reanimations. The question, and it is flash speed, so if you attack in, they declare blocks. You can do this at knowing like 3 of your creatures will die and bring back like 3 big guys from your graveyard. So I think it's going to be cool. Now, whether it's better than the other reanimation stuff, which is already pretty fast with like Squirming Emergence and everything, I'm not sure. So I'm going to say maybe meta, and we're gonna make some decks. So Mythic Mike banger, yes. All right, we got what I believe will be meta removal here. Long Goodbye, 2 mana instant uncommon. The spell can't be countered. It's important because this set has a bunch of ward things going on, and also just a nice line of text, right? Destroy target creature or planeswalker with mana value 3 or less. Yeah, that's most of the things, right? That we're worried about, or at least there always is something that we're worried about that's 3 mana or less. I mean, a lot of the creatures that we're worried about kind of grow, are like small creatures that grow. Think of the white 1/2 that taps things and then gets vigilance and flying after a while. So this isn't a terrible, limitation, the 3 mana or less. So yeah, I'm saying it's gonna be meta. Let's go. Soul Enervation, 4 mana enchantment uncommon. Let's go, baby. We're gonna have the craziest black budget deck. Flash, when this card enters the battlefield, target creature gets -4/-4. So it's a flash kill spell. Gets around indestructibility too. Does not kill Sheldred. It is what it is. Whenever 1 or more creature cards leave your graveyard, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So there's a lot of synergies in the set for things leaving your graveyard. There's a lot of easy ways to do it. By the way, I make a bunch of Willowgeist decks, which is a card that benefits from things leaving your graveyard. I mean, Unearth is like the easiest way. You can just play your cards out and then have a bunch of Unearth things in your graveyard and bring them out, attacking with haste, and then also get an extra buff here. So there's a lot of easy ways to do this. And if you get value off of the initial -4/-4, I think this is very close to getting there. So I do not think it's meta. Mythic Mike banger, I think we're going to pop off on it and crush some meta decks. So I'm excited. Let's go. Moving on to the red cards. This is one of the cards I'm most excited for, guys. I'm not even joking. Felonious Rage, 1 mana instant common. Let's go. Target creature you control gets +2/+0 and gains haste until end of turn. Whenever this creature dies at this turn, so it's to die this turn, create a 2/2 white and blue detective creature token. So look, I make a lot of 1-turn kill budget decks with like Picnic Ruiner and Cacophony Scamp, which this goes well with. I mean, specifically Cacophony Scamp. You put this on Cacophony Scamp, you have a 3/1 haste. You can force the sacrifice when it hits Cacophony Scamp, its ability, and then it deals damage equal to its power. So it does 3 more damage to their face or a creature. And you make a 2/2. So you did 6 damage with that combo and left behind a 2/2. You're welcome to steal that, and it's going to be one of my first decks, and we're going to crush some people. So this is a Mythic Mike banger. No, probably not meta, but I mean, unless we make it meta, which we might. Let's go. All right, Case of the Crimson Pulse, 3 mana. When this case enters the battlefield, discard a card, then draw 2 cards. So that is card neutral. To solve, because you had to use this card to play it. To solve, you have no cards in your hand. Well, that's easy for me, I'll tell you that. And then it moves to the last chapter at the beginning of your end step. Solved. At the beginning of your upkeep, discard your hand, then draw 2 cards. I think that means you have 3 cards, right? Because you also draw normally. Either way, 2 or 3 cards is sick. So you keep doing that every turn, to my understanding. So as long as you don't draw 2 lands, you could just keep playing out your hand and drawing 3 cards. I know you have to take a turn 3 off, but in an aggro deck, this kind of card draw is insane. I think this is going to be meta. I'm a little scared for this card, but yeah. Hey, Wizards made it. We'll see how it goes. My God. So we already have a Goblins deck that I like, but Goblins is going to pop, guys. Just you wait. Kranko, Baron of the Tin Street, 3 mana, legendary creature, Goblin Rare, Haste, 3/3. 3/3 Haste is already okay. Tap it, sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on each goblin. We got another Goblin Lord, guys. We already have a Goblin Lord. That is 2 Goblin Lords in Standard. Insane. And then whenever an artifact is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 1/1 Goblin creature token. It gains haste. So we're making 1/1 goblins with haste for 1 mana. And you can sacrifice bloods, treasures does this. There's a card called Sokensen Smelter, where you pay 1 each turn to sacrifice an artifact, and you make a 3/1 artifact creature with haste, which will trigger this too. So, God, I'm so excited. We're gonna make. I mean, it's one of the first 3 decks is goblins. So, meta, I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like it's gonna be meta, but it's gonna be Mythic Mike banger, number 1 or 2. So let's go. We're going to keep the goblins going with Crime Novelist, 3 mana, creature, goblin, bard, uncommon. Woo woo. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, put a +1/+1 counter on this and add a mana. My God. Sacrifice your treasures for 2 mana and grow a counter on this. And like I said, Sokensen Smelter, and it's a goblin that goes with the other stuff. It's broken. I mean, like I said, maybe if Goblins is meta, then this and the last card are meta. If not, we're still going to climb into the top 1,000 Mythic with our Goblins deck, and this is going to be a key reason for it. So, super pumped. Mythic Mike banger, definitely. Another Goblin I want you to be aware of is Fugitive Codebreaker, 2 mana, 2/1 Prowess. When you cast a non-creature spell, it gets +1/+1 with haste. It is a Goblin Rogue, rare. You can do this disguise thing, and it's, put it down for 3 mana. It's a 2/2 with Ward 2, and then flip it up for 6. The cost is reduced by 1 for each instant sorcery in your graveyard. And when it's turned up, discard your hand, then draw 3 cards. Kind of cool. I think that's limited. I don't think you want to waste your turn 3 almost ever. Maybe it's some cool late game mechanic where you can do it almost for 1. And look, that's not how I'm going to use it, at least initially. I think a 2 mana 2/1 Prowess Haste Goblin is probably good enough to go in our Goblins deck. We have a Goblin Lord buffing our Goblins, or 2 of them. And we have an artifact synergy where we want to play some artifacts, which will have Prowess. So I think this might slot right in without using its disguise thing at all. So I'm saying Mythic Mike banger, and we're going to definitely test it out. One of the cards I'm most excited for is Frantic Scapegoat. I don't think anyone else probably is, except for how beautiful the art is. I think I've heard that a couple times, but I'm going to break this card. Just you wait. Creature, goat, uncommon, haste. So budget deck, let's go. When Frantic Scapegoat enters the battlefield, suspect it, which means it has menace it can't block. So it is a 1 mana haste, 1/1 menace, can't block. Whenever 1 or more creatures you enter the battlefield under your control, if Frantic Scapegoat is suspected, you may suspect one of the other creatures. It is a May trigger. If you do, Frantic Scapegoat is no longer suspected. So you can get in with this a couple times, then you can drop your haste creature or something, or a Godric or whatever you need to do. and swing in and give that menace so they hopefully can't block it. Take the menace off this and use it as a blocker to survive. I think there's going to be some crazy play patterns with that, and I'm very excited to test that out. So I think not meta, but definitely a Mythic Mike banger. Krenko's Buzz Crusher, 4 mana with 2 reds. Artifact creature, Insect Thopter. It is a Thopter, right? So there's some stuff there with certain cards. Rare, Flying Trample. When this card enters the battlefield, for each player, destroy up to 1 non-basic land that player controls. For each land destroyed that way, controller may search the library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. It is tapped, so you can't self-ramp yourself. You could mana fix yourself, and it is a 4/4. There are a lot of interesting cards. People, creature lands, things like that. People are trying 3-color decks. You can mess them up, killing the Triumph. So I think that is actually pretty powerful. 4 mana, 4/4 Flying Trample's not good enough, but with that, it is interesting. Artifact makes it the most interesting. You can ramp to artifacts. We all know I love Dowsing Device, which gives artifacts +1/+0 and haste until it flips. So 5/4 Flying Trample that does this is sounding better. Haste, Flying Trample haste. So look, not meta outside of maybe like some sideboard stuff, but again, we do best of 1 standard. But yeah, we're definitely gonna try to make it work. So I'm gonna say it's a Mythic Mike banger, or at least it looks like one. You're going to notice an outfit and hair change, and then we're going to keep going into the rest of the colors. Let's go, baby. All right, moving on to green cards. We're going to start with Audience with Trostani. 3 mana sorcery rare. Create a 0/1 green plant creature token, then draw cards equal to the number of differently named creature tokens you control. So there's already another card we'll show later, multicolored card, where we're making a bunch of plants and giving plants counters. So this goes with another card. So that's number 1. But number 2, even by itself, in a very cool token deck, I could see this drawing 3 or 4 cards while making a token. So I do think it's relevant to bring up. We're going to make a sick deck on it. Probably not meta, but Mythic Mike banger for sure. All right, next card is Case of the Trampled Garden, 3 mana. When this case enters the battlefield, distribute 2 +1/+1 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures you control. And then it checks at the end of your turn if it was solved. And to solve, creatures you control of total power 8 or greater. And once it's solved, whenever you attack, put a +1/+1 counter on target attacking creature, only 1, but it gains trample until end of turn. So the counter stays on, it gains trample. It's kind of like an inti. And it benefits you for going big because you need 8 power to solve it. It also does add 2 power and toughness at the turn that you play it. And obviously there are decks where counters matter. It is uncommon. Let's go. I do not think it's meta, although my God, if mono green becomes meta, this could be something. But I think it's close to meta, and I think we're gonna make a crazy deck with it. Yeah, my God, it's so easy to have creatures you control total power 8 or greater in mono green or a green deck, a Gruul deck. And the counters initially will do stuff. And then like the last ability, every turn, an Inti trigger. Inti's a card where you discard a card and then you get a look at one. And as long as you do that and Inti's in play, then it gives a creature +1/+1 and trample. They can't really get rid of this, right? Easily. I think this is a thing, and we're going to definitely pop off with it. Let's go. All right, guys. Chalk outline, 4 mana enchantment, uncommon. Woo woo. Whenever 1 or more creature card leaves your graveyard, create a 2/2 white and blue detective creature token and investigate, which is creating a clue, and it's an artifact, and you pay 2 to draw a card. I don't care about drawing the cards, although we will sometimes. 4 mana is expensive, so this is not going to be meta, but we're doing it. We're doing it, guys. Like I said before, it's very easy to get cards out of your graveyard with Unearth, with things that just exile cards from graveyards, with Collect Evidence, but there's a lot of tricks that I've done. Willowgeist is a very cool card that I think can go with these things. Whenever a card leaves your graveyard, it gets +1/+1. It's a 1 mana that has trample and also can gain you some life. I think there's a deck where things leaving your graveyard matters, and I think this could be a very cool card in it. We're going to see if 4 mana is too much, but I mean, you get a lot. You get a lot. And we could add in an artifact synergy, right? There's a lot of cool green artifact synergies, like the green 1/1 worm guy that grows whenever artifacts enter play. So I think this can really really pop off. And it's not hard to save this because, again, Unearth will make this happen. So without trying, if you play Unearth creatures, they'll be in your graveyard. You play this on the following turn, you unearth your guys. They leave the graveyard, get some damage in, and then we get creatures and investigate tokens. I say yes to that. All right, guys, get a leg up. 1 mana, instant, uncommon. Until end of turn, target creature gets +1/+1 for each creature you control and gains reach. The left side of Pollen Shear Hair is 1 mana sorcery that gives a creature +1/+1 in vigilance for each creature you control. And I think it's a very cool card. And then on the right side, excuse my dogs, the Pollen Shear Hair is a 2/2 and buffs your tokens, right? So that's obviously kind of a better version of this. So why are we showing this? I think the instant speed is crazy because the problem with Pollen Shield Hair is you have to show them which creature you're putting it on. I think there's going to be some combos enabled here. We already have like 1-turn kill decks and Picnic Ruiner decks and things with green, with double strike and different things. The fact that we could, in a go wide strategy, buff something in instant speed for 1 mana, like +5/+5, I think it's going to be a thing. And look, these combat tricks often are not in the top meta decks. So I'm not saying it's meta, but my God, we're going to crush some souls with this. So I'm excited. Mythic Mike banger for sure. All right, guys, hard-hitting question. 1 mana sorcery. Uncommon. Target creature you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature or planeswalker you don't control. So it's not a fight because your creature doesn't get hurt. Also, Death Touch will kill their stuff. The reason I bring this in is because we were just excited about the red dinosaur spell from last set that did this, but only did it for dinosaurs, right? So, I mean, this is premium green removal, which they usually don't have for 1 mana like this. I think it's very nice. Obviously, I wish it was instant and had some other benefit, but I think this is going to get the job done, and it's going to be what mono green has to use. So, look, I don't think mono green is meta, so every green card can't be meta, but it will be a Mythic Mike banger. We're gonna try it out, and I think this will enable some cool decks. All right, the Pride of Hulklade, 11 mana, legendary creature, crocodile, elk, turtle. Love that type. Mythic. The spell costs X less to cast, where X is the total toughness of creatures you control. It has Defender, but you pay 4 in 2 colorless and 2 blue. Until end of turn, target creature you control gets +1/+0 and gains whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw cards equal to its toughness, and can attack as though it does not have Defender. So we can make this thing not have Defender. There's already the turtle that makes everything hit for its power and for its toughness instead of its power. There's also a backup creature that does it. And the card draw on this is insane. I think I made a toughness deck that didn't quite get there. And I think this, look, Mythic Mike banger for sure. I think we can do some crazy stuff. We're going to see if we can combo with its ability as well. Even just straight up killing them and getting card draw with like big toughness creatures, I think will be fun and powerful. So, keep your eye out for this one, baby. All right. This is quite the controversial pick to put it in this. 1 mana artifact, Clue Equipment. Clue, which is pretty cool because you can just sacrifice it to draw a card. It's an uncommon. Equipped creature gets +1/+2 and has reach and can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. Equip for 3. That's a lot. The reason I put this in here is it's a cheap artifact, and also on a menace creature, this makes it unblockable, right? So a 1 mana artifact that can draw a card that makes a menace creature unblockable and buffs it. Look, man, I think there's something to do here. So Mythic Mike banger, not meta, not even close, but we're going to do it. Sharp-Eyed Rookie, 2 mana, creature, human detective, rare, vigilance. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, if its power is greater than this creature's power or its toughness, then put a +1/+1 counter on Sharp-Eyed Rookie and investigate, which means make a clue. My God, this can go in an artifacts deck. This is just epic card. I think it's going to be... I mean, green is not a good place. So, like, can any green card be meta? If there was one to take it there, it would be this one. and it's going to be in an artifacts deck, like a blue red, or probably blue. I mean, sorry, green red. I was going to say probably green blue. Epic, epic card. Enters the battlefield, first of all, not a cast. Enters the battlefield is often better because like Unearth triggers it, or things that kind of flash it. And power or toughness, so it gets a ton of counters very easily. Vigilance, and you make an artifact every time. God, this card's busted, guys. This might be the second deck I make, to be honest. Let's go. All right, Rubble Belt Maverick, 1 mana, Human Detective, common. When it enters the battlefield, surveil 2. That's very nice. It's better than Scry because we can put them in our graveyard if we want. 1 mana, exile this from your graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, activate as a sorcery. There's a lot of cards that care about moving something from your graveyard, which Willowgeist also cares, that we talked about. So I think this will be a very interesting deck to enable graveyard strategies where we put things in our graveyard with Surveil, and then we can take this out of it to put a counter on something. But also, again, there's a lot of cards that trigger when something leaves your graveyard. This will enable something. Mythic Mike Banger, probably not meta, although look, we're almost getting to this kind of graveyard, remove things from graveyard deck, so I wouldn't be surprised if something was created. I assume you're going to add another color, but yeah, epic card. You know we're doing this one, baby. Slime Against Humanity, 3 mana, sorcery, common. Let's go. Let's start with the last line. A deck can contain any number of cards named Slime Against Humanity, so not just 4, you can put as many as you want. Create a 0/0 green ooze creature token with trample. Put X +1/+1 counters on it, where X is 2 plus the total number of cards you own in exile and in your graveyard that are oozes, or are the same, or are named Slime Against Humanity. So some kind of graveyard or exile strategy where you do it to yourself, and then you just play only these. I mean, God, I assume not meta, but we are Mythic Mike bangering this baby out. Let's go. All right, assemble the players. 2 mana, enchantment rare. We are on to white, guys. Forgot to say that, but you know, you can see. And you may look at the top card of your library at any time. Once each turn, you may cast a creature spell with power 2 or less from the top of your library. My God, I only play creatures with power 2 or less, and I only play creatures. This card was made for me. Yeah. You take turn 2 off, which is a bummer, and then it is very nice. I mean, it's effectively draw 2 every turn. If you're playing a low to the ground creature strategy, there's also ways to scry things from the top of your library. Think like Surge Ginger or something. Yeah. We're gonna make this work. Meta, probably not. Mythic Mike Banger though. Guys, I have a hot take. This is gonna be a crazy meta card. I wish I could say it was just my card, but this is gonna be a thing. I'm very confident. Case of the Gateway Express, 2 mana. When this case enters the battlefield, choose target creature you don't control. Each creature you control deals 1 damage to that creature. Okay, we have 3 creatures. This dealt 3 damage. Let's go. To solve, 3 or more creatures attack this turn. Like I said, this is go wide. We had 3 creatures. Okay, so it solves. Solved. Creatures you control get +1/+0 forever. This is an uncommon. Okay. Removal spell, easy to solve on go wide, that helps with go wide. An Anthem, like, it's busted, guys. I'm going out on a limb and saying busted. This is gonna be a thing. I'm excited for it, but I'm also fearful. All right, guys, we just made a mono white lifelink deck that was epic, and this is gonna fit right into it. Case of the Uneaten Feast, 1 mana. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. Nice. They can't kill it, right? This isn't a creature that does that. Good luck killing my case. You're gonna have some interesting removal. To solve, you gain 5 or more life this turn. Yeah, we're lifelink. We're life gain. We're gonna do that. I know a lot of people have ping strategies. My white life gain deck makes it very easy to gain 5 life because I use like the +2/+0 and lifelink instant because we're trying to pop off with Resplendent. So we already kind of need 5 life, right? For the Angel. So we're doing that easy. Now, when it's solved, you sacrifice this, and creature cards in your graveyard gain. You may cast this card from your graveyard until end of turn. So that's not just 1 card. You can cast like 3 cheap cards from your graveyard that turn. Yeah, yeah. This is going to be epic in those decks. It's going to enable life gain. I think it might even be meta. We might be popping off to life gain meta, but it's definitely a Mythic Mike banger. My God, what are they doing to us, guys? Delney Streetwise Lookout, 3 mana, legendary creature, human. We got another human in white. Boros, humans is already busted. Human Scout, mythic. Thank God it's legendary, but still. Creatures you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or greater. Oh, so that go wide human strategy can just get in? Okay. Including all of the 1/1 gnomes that are made by the Boros human that I'm forgetting that just makes a bunch of gnomes. Okay. And Adeline that makes 1/1s. And then if an ability of a creature you control with power 2 or less triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. I'm blanking. You guys know the card. There's the Boros human that starts as a small creature and buffs itself and makes more gnomes. So it'll make that trigger 2 times on its first turn. God, there's so many good humans to trigger. Like, that's why we had the Throne humans deck, which is one of my favorite decks. This just slots right in. It is 3 mana, which is a tight spot, but I think it's very nice. 3 mana, though, means it's going to take the spot of one of those other cards. I think it's going to do it, though, guys. I think, I mean, look, the deck's already amazing and kind of already full, but I think we could slot this in and at very least not lose value and just gain value in another place. So I think this could be meta, and we're definitely playing it, but I think this will be meta and we'll go in some stuff. Doorkeeper Thrall, 2 mana, creature Thrall, rare, flash, flying. Artifacts and creatures entering the battlefield don't cause abilities to trigger. 1/2. Okay. Now, that can mess them up. I play best of 1, though. And obviously, it's a sideboard card in best of 3, and you're going to blow them out. In best of 1, though, you can't really main deck this unless you're doing it to yourself as well. I mean, we just saw a 6/2 skeleton, black skeleton for 3 that gives them 2 1/1s. I'll shut that off, right? And there's a lot of cool things I think we can do with things like that, where we shut off our own abilities that we don't want to trigger. In that deck, where we also might shut off their stuff, but we're for sure shutting off our stuff, but only in ways we want. This is going to be a banger. I think this is meta situationally, and we're going to pop off with it as well. All right, Neighborhood Guardian, 2 mana, Unicorn, uncommon. Let's go. Budget deck fodder. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, target creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Yeah, end of turn is a bummer. It's a 2/2. But look, we got a lot of things that can make many creatures in a turn. And I think this will be an enabler for certain strategies that just pop off. If we're making a ton of things, you know, giving creatures +1/+1 3 times. Obviously, the gnome guy, the human Boros creature that makes 1,000,000 gnomes will be very fun with this. There's ways to get creatures like this to trigger multiple times anyways. We just looked at one. I think, look, not meta, but I think you can make a very powerful budget deck with this, and I'm going to do it. So Mythic Mike banger, let's go. Novus Inspector, 1 mana, creature human detective. When it enters the battlefield, investigate. We make an artifact, 1/2. These cards are always good because we can use those artifacts. I think this will be meta, even though it's common. I think it's going to slot right in. All right, on to the blue cards. Behind the Mask, 1 mana instant, common for the budget babes. As an additional cost to cast the spell, you may collect evidence 6, which means exile cards with total mana value 6 or greater from your graveyard. So relatively hard to do, but can do it in certain decks, or if just some of your things die. Until end of turn, target creature or artifact. Until end of turn, target artifact or creature becomes an artifact creature with base power and toughness 4/3. Let's just leave it at that. We already have Relic's Roar, and I use it in some budget decks, and it can be very powerful to turn like a clue token into a 4/3. For 1, this is a better Relic's Roar because there's more text. If evidence was collected, it has base power toughness 1/1 until end of turn instead. So it's modal in that if we want to shut down one of their creatures, we can instead collect evidence and shut down one of their things at instant speed. It's a budget banger, guys. Not meta, but we're going to make a sick budget deck. Let's go. What are they doing to us, guys? Just, my God, just making my day. This card makes me happy. Case of the Filched Falcon, one blue, uncommon. Woo woo. When this case enters the battlefield, investigate, create a clue token. Look, we're making an artifact. We can draw a card of it. It's an artifact. I'm happy. To solve, you control 3 or more artifacts. We just made one. We're going to have artifacts in this deck. Solved. You pay 3, sacrifice this case, put 4 +1/+1 counters on target non-creature artifact. We had just made one. It becomes a 0/0 bird with flying. So it's a 4/4 flying. We can turn our clue into a 4/4 flying or anything else. Or our ginger brew or whatever little thing we got. Yeah, there's already a nice blue artifacts deck. And there's a nice blue budget artifacts deck that's this close. And we got this card now. It might be there. So not meta, but Mythic Mike banger. And we are going to pop off. And just to go with the same theme we were talking about, my God, another uncommon. Curious Inquiry, an enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchant creature gets +1/+1. And whenever creature deals combat damage to a player, investigate. So we just make artifacts. In an artifacts deck that matters, especially a budget deck, I think this will be sick. So not meta, Mythic Mike banger, yes. Going with the same theme of budget bangers that are going to be good for me, but not meta. Feyflight, 2 mana, flash, enchantment aura, uncommon, enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, enchanted creature gets hexproof, so it's a save. We have a bunch of these already, but enchanted creature gets +1/+0 and flying. Now we're talking. We save our big boy, then we swing in the next turn with flying. We did it at flash speed. We're doing it. My God. Forensic Gadgeteer, 3 mana, rare. So it's not in our budget version, but we're putting it in the rare version, which we're making too. Artificer Detective. It is not a artifact itself. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, so you need to cast it, so it means we can't do our little clue stuff. Investigate, and we make a clue, which is very cool. So, there'll be a build around here. Activated abilities of artifacts cost 1 less. Ginger Brute has haste for... Oh, no, I lied. I didn't read the next part. This effect can't reduce the mana in that cost to less than 1 mana. All right, whatever. We don't need it. Well, we're going to use some interesting artifacts. There are a bunch of things. There's even a steal spell where you pay 3 or 2 after to either gain 3 life or to deal 3 damage to their face. It's a 4 mana artifact. Things like that, I think we can take a second look at because this will just really make activated abilities of artifacts nice while benefiting from casting artifacts themselves. So not meta, but we're going to do a build around and it's a Mythic Mike banger. Lost in the Maze, 2 blue and X. Enchantment rare, flash. When Lost in the Maze enters the battlefield, tap X target creatures. Pretty cool at instant speed. Put a stun counter on each of those creatures you don't control. Tap creatures you control of hexproof. So at the very least, it's a 2 mana save spell. Think of this play pattern. You attacking with 4 creatures. They use Wandering Emperor. They're going to kill one. We played this for 2 at instant speed, and our tap creatures have hexproof. They can't target it anymore. Now, that's in the worst case. The best case is we have some more mana and we also shut down their stuff, right? And put stun counters so they don't even untap next turn. I think this is amazing. I think it's going to be meta. If blue is a little better. So let me think. Is there a blue deck this would fit in? I think this is good enough to be a meta card. They just need a shell for it. So maybe it's just going to be a Mythic Mike banger. But I mean, God. Blue is just in a bad place if they can't make this meta. I'll say that. All right, legendary enchantment. I don't know why I started with that on this one, but just had to. It's called Prophet's Eidetic Memory, 2 mana blue, 1 colorless and a blue mana, rare. When this card enters the battlefield, draw a card. You have no maximum hand size forever. And at the beginning of combat in your turn, if you've drawn more than 1 card this turn, put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, where X is the number of cards you've drawn this turn -1. So I assume that means on this first turn, you at least put 1 counter on it, on a creature. So, I mean, look, we can do filter abilities. There's a lot of things you can do to draw cards, even without fully drawing them, to give counters to things. And I think there's going to be build down here. Like I said, blue's in a bad place. If they can't make this meta, this should be meta. But if it's not, it's going to be a Mythic Mike banger, and we're going to do it. All right, Reasonable Doubt, 2 mana instant, common, counter target spell unless its controller pays 2. So it's like, that's the going rate of counter spells, but it doesn't have an upside like a lot of the counter spells do. So it's worse in that situation. But suspect up to 1 target creature. The creature has menace it can't block. I am going to use this. I think it's a Mythic Mike banger. I don't think it's meta, but the way we're going to do this is we can counter a spell and suspect their creature so they can't block while we're going in. You're left behind 2 little blockers. Or we can suspect our creature if they don't have enough blockers to block a menace creature, right? So it has a lot of 2-for-1 value in situations, a lot of ways. I mean, look, do we want to suspect theirs or ours? Number one. And also, like, if we just counter their stuff, that's good enough. So it's extra value that I think will go a long way. I'm gonna use it. Reenact the Crime, 4 mana with 3 of those being blue. So we're putting this in our blue deck, apparently. Instant, rare, exile target non-land card in a graveyard that was put there from anywhere this turn. Copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its cost. So, you know all those mill decks that mill Atraxa? We just hold 4 mana up, and when they mill it, we play their Atraxa without paying its mana cost for 4 at instant speed on their turn. Not to mention, we can do some kind of strategy like that with ourselves. So I think this is a thing. I think it will be meta. There's going to be a way to fit this in there. So yeah, let's do it. Moving on to multicolored, I think this is going to be meta. I think there's going to be a way to break it. And we're definitely breaking it as well. Ansrog, the Quake Mole, 4 mana with a red and a green in there. Let's go. Legendary creature Mole God, the best type. We have it as a mythic. When this creature becomes blocked, untap each creature you control. After this combat phase, there's an additional combat phase. Oh yeah, and this is an 8/4. So either they don't block it and take 8 to the face, or they block it and we get another combat phase. Even if they kill it, we get another combat phase, right? Yeah. And for 3, 2 red, and 2 green, so 7 total, it must be blocked each combat this turn if able. So this is just like an infinite loop. Is that how this works? I mean, if you attack, they block because they can't spare the 8 damage. Then you get another one. And if they didn't kill it, then we go in again. And then again. All our creatures get untapped. This is insane. What if we give this haste? My God, this is a real deck. Yes. Be worried, guys. It's going to be fun when we play it, but my God, is it going to be sad when we play against it. So I think this is meta. I really do. All right, this is a close one. Aurelia the Life. Oh, wow. Aurelia the Law Above. 3 a red and a white for 5 total. Legendary creature Angel. It is an angel, which is nice. Rare. Flying Vigilance and Haste. Haste saved it, thank God, right? Because 5 is expensive. When a player attacks with 3 or more creatures, you draw a card. So if we, on the turn this enters, if they don't kill it, we can draw a card as long as we attach with 3 creatures. Whenever a player attacks with 5 or more creatures, this deals 3 damage to each of your opponents and you gain 3 life. So if we have 5 creatures, including this, I mean, it's swinging in doing 7 damage, gaining 3 life. And you really only need 3 creatures, so 2 alongside this for this to have a good amount of value. I think this is very close. So we're going to make a deck around it. I'm not sure it's meta. Mythic Mike banger. Let's go. My God, our blue-red artifact budget deck is going to beat every other deck. I'm worried for people, guys. We're going to crush them. Uncommon. Gleaming Gear Drake. A blue and a red artifact creature. Flying. When this enters the battlefield, investigate. We make a clue. Whenever you sacrifice an artifact, we put a counter on this +1/+1. Guys, this is going to be amazing. I bet there's a meta deck and we're going to break it first. I might have to rechange it. This might have to be my first deck. It's going to be epic, guys. You're not going to believe what we're going to do here. I referenced this card earlier when I liked a 3 mana where you could draw cards and make a 0/1 plant, because I said there's a plant combo here. The plant combo is through this card, which is good by itself. A black and a green. Enchantment, uncommon. Let's go. I think the other one was uncommon too, I hope. Creature tokens you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color. Guys, this and that card go in a token deck already. This is amazing. Whenever 1 or more creature cards leave your graveyard, create a 0/1 green plant creature token. That other one made a plant too and benefits from tokens. Then put a +1/+1 counter on each plant you control. So our creature tokens make mana, and then we just have to unearth things or exile things, and we get 0/1 more 0/1 plants, and we get counters on each plant. It's like, dude, this card will carry a game. Oh, I'm gonna make 2 more plants, 2 more counters on my plants, another plant, now they're all 3/3s, another plant, now they're all 4/4s. It's gonna be a thing. Look, there's no deck like this right now in the meta, so meta maybe. Mythic Mike banger for sure. My God, they made a Kaya that might actually be meta here. Kaya Spirits of Justice, 2, a white and a black, legendary planeswalker Kaya at Mythic. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control and or creature cards in your graveyard are put into exile, you may choose a creature card from among them. Until end of turn, target token you control becomes a copy of it, except it has flying. Surveil, and then +2, surveil 2, then exile a card from a graveyard. Okay, well, there we go. So it can trigger itself. +1, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. Okay. It can trigger itself. I don't know if I read the top. The thing has flying, by the way, when it comes in. And then -2, exile target creature you control. For each other player, exile up to 1 target creature that player's controls. So we exile our stuff and their stuff. So it's kind of removal. It only has 3 loyalty, but guys, we can make a big flying creature. Does it have haste right away? It does, right? Because our creature token, sorry, my dog's going crazy. Your creature token's already in play, so it doesn't have summoning sickness, right? I hope that's how it works. But I mean, we can put like the 18/6 guy or whatever. It has flying swing in. I think this is insane. Not to mention ETBs. This is the best reanimator, guys. It's meta. It's meta. It's going to pop, guys. Just wait. Crawl, Whipcracker, a black and a green for a 3/2. That's already good. Uncommon, yes. Creature, Insect Assassin. I like that. Reach, yes. You don't need any more text, but the last bit is the best. When this enters the battlefield, destroy target token and opponent controls. So you're telling me we got a solid creature that just has upside of blowing them out? Everything has tokens these days. Yeah, this is a meta card, and it's going to be awesome. What the heck are they doing here? Lazev, Wearer of Faces, a blue and a black. Legendary creature, shapeshifter, detective, and it is rare. When this creature attacks, exile target creature card from a graveyard, then investigate, make a clue. Whenever you sacrifice a clue, which you can just sacrifice the one you had, or sacrifice it another way, right, with like Bartholomew or something, you may have Lazev become a copy of a creature card, exiled it with it until end of turn. What? 2 mana, 2/3 is fine, dude. Why you gotta make this thing make... Even if it just made investigates when it attacked, it'd be fine. But you can turn this into like an Atraxa? I don't think ETBs happen, actually, and that's a good point. Do ETBs happen on the other copy? Maybe not. But still awesome. I'll take a 7/7 lifelink or something, right? Till end of turn. So meta. I'm saying meta. Lightning Helix, baby. Red and white. It's a reprint. Instant, uncommon. Deals 3 damage to any target, and you gain 3 life. So a bolt with a lot of upside that you gain life. Yeah. I think this should be meta. It's just an amazing card. All right. 1 white and a blue for a uncommon instant counter spell unless they pay 3, and it exiles the card. Shoot. It's gonna be meta. I'm not gonna be playing it much, if ever, but I'm sure it'll be sad for me. Officious Interrogation, 1 white and a blue, instant rare. This spell costs it's 1 white and a blue more to cast for each target beyond its first. Choose any number of target players. So the most you can do in standard is yourself and them. So you could pay 4 instead of 2 if you want. Investigate X times, where X is the total number of creatures those players control. So you can just pay 2 at instant speed and make like 5 investigate tokens if they are go wide, or 10 if we're both go wide and we play both. That's value. There's some combos I'm already thinking about with this card. So Mythic Mike meta, yes. Or Mythic Mike banger. Not meta, I don't think, but I don't even want to tell you my combo. It's gonna be so good. But we're doing it. My God, a counterspell I'm gonna like. Repulsive Mutation. X, a green, and a blue. Instant uncommon. Let's go. Put X +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. Then counter up to 1 target spell unless its controller pays mana equal to the greatest power among creatures you control. So it's a 2-mana counter spell, and if we have like a 4/4, pay 4. That's better than any counter spell. And also it has upside. That we can just turn this into a sweet instant speed counter engine. And if they try to blow out a creature, we pay 4, counter their thing, and add 2 counters to it. Let's go. Yeah, meta and Mythic Mike banger. We're doing it. Treacherous Greed, 1 colorless, a white and a black, instant rare. As an additional cost to cast this spell, sacrifice a creature that dealt damage this turn, which just means it hit, right? Or, I mean, whatever. Draw 3 cards. Each opponent loses 3 life, and you gain 3 life. It's instant. I don't think this will be meta, but I think it's very good. Maybe it's meta. You have to kind of do a lot to pull it off. You just want to put this in a creature deck. That's what people are missing. An aggro deck just with this, and this is how we just finish them and keep going. So, look, Mythic Mike banger for sure. War Leader's Call, colorless, a red and a white enchantment rare. Creatures you control get +1/+1. I'll take an Anthem. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, War Leader's Call deals 1 damage to each opponent. Guys, this is an enters the battlefield trigger, not a cast trigger. So we can just have our little Might Factory going off, you know, Skrelv's Hive or something, and just, this can be a thing, guys. I think it's in a tokens deck where the tokens keep getting made, and we just, I'd say meta and Mythic Mike banger, but I mean, at the very least, we're doing it. We're doing it hard. We got these little split face sides. My understanding, you can play either side, right? So late game, you'll probably play the right side. Early game, you'll play the left, but it's not a situation where you can play both. Seize is 2 mana, one of them being green and black. Exile up to 2 target cards from a single graveyard. We've already talked about we're going to make a deck doing that. Target player gains 2 life and draws a card. Okay, sounds like all upside. And then late game for 4 and either green, 2 green or 2 white, or any mixture of that. So notice you can put this in a mono green deck. Destroy all artifacts and enchantments, which will be situationally awesome. So yeah, this is gonna be a Mythic Mike banger. This might be meta, guys. This might be meta. If the right side had black in it, it would be meta. But I'm a little, because black has trouble destroying artifacts and enchantments. Too bad, huh? And the left side doesn't have white in it. So since green's so weak, this probably will not be meta, but Mythic Mike banger, we're gonna do with it. We're making that deck. All right, guys. Hustle for either a blue or a red. Target, it's an instant, uncommon. Target creature attacks or blocks this turn if able. So it's kind of can be a removal spell, right? Or gets a creature out of our way. And then the other side is Bustle for 4 and 2 either red or green mana. Sorcery, uncommon. Creatures you control get +2/+2 and trample until end of turn. You may turn a creature you control face up. We don't care about that last part. I think this is interesting because the left side will be good enough, and really late game, you can kind of use this as a way to finish them. So I think we're going to try it in some budget decks. So Mythic Mike banger, not even close to meta though. All right, uncommon, another Mythic Mike banger that's probably not meta, but this one's epic, guys. Push 1 and a either white or black sorcery, uncommon, destroy target tapped creature. That'll do, right? That'll do. But the thing is, we have this kind of like not perfect removal at sorcery speed, but then for 6, I mean, for 4 and either 2 black or 2 red or a mixture, you know, Sorcery, put up to 2 target creature cards from a single graveyard, either yours or your opponent's, onto the battlefield until end of turn. They gain haste until end of turn. There are ETBs or death triggers, and then sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. That looks like a finisher. That looks like a finisher. So pretty good removal in some kind of self-mill deck where we could also take their stuff, where we have such an upside when it gets late game. I think there's something to do here, and it's not even a rare, so it's a budget banger. So yeah, we're doing it. All right, on to Colorless. 2 mana for an artifact rare called Cryptex. Collect evidence 3, which means we have to exile things from our graveyard with mana value 3 or greater, which sometimes can be good, remember. And then add 1 mana of any color, put an unlock counter on this. 2 mana rock is good. Obviously, it needs setup on this one. Sacrifice this, surveil 3, and draw 3 cards. Activate only if Cryptex has 5 or more unlock counters on it. I think this can happen. I think we can do this. It'll take some setup and there'll be weird things. But I mean, even just as a mana rock that exiles things from our graveyard, again, we sometimes want to exile things from our graveyard for certain decks. So I think this is a nice card. I think it'll be Mythic Mike Banger, not meta. It was actually the only colorless that was reasonable. Escape Tunnel, though, is a land. Colorless land, common. You can sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land card, put it on the battlefield tapped. So, you know, that'll do some stuff. And then you also can sacrifice it and tap it, and target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. So if you're flooded late game, we can use this kind of as a finisher, especially on something that can be buffed after we use this ability. So we make something unblockable, Picnic Ruiner, buff it +2. Now it is a 4/4 double strike doing 8 damage unblockable. Yes, yes. Mythic Mike Banger, classic here. Probably not meta. The last one, which I think is probably either, but I just wanted to, we might use it in certain decks. Just wanted to alert you the new lands or these tap lands that do say mountain and forest, or, they say multiple things, which is nice because if you need to find a mountain, you can find it. It is a rare. It enters the battlefield tapped. Bummer. But when it enters the battlefield, surveil 1. So we can use this as mill, by the way. Surveil you can put in your graveyard. So in certain kind of self-mill decks, we are going to use these cards. They are going to be nice. So yeah, I think these will be both meta, and we'll use them in very specific decks or any decks we need to find basic lands. Check out one of these 2 videos. Remember, I make a deck a day and multiple budget decks a week. We are popping off with the most unique synergies. Remember to like and subscribe. I really appreciate the support. Hope you have a good rest of your day or night. Thanks, guys.